Hello there, folks. This is Dr. Dino, or Doc for short. I felt like streaming a little bit today, and I wanted to talk some science. I really enjoyed the stream this weekend with Vandalia, 1998, and I kind of wanted to talk more about dinosaurs, talk more about science. Kind of a little hobby of mine, I guess you could say. And today, I was talking to a friend and realized there was a pretty fun topic I could cover. Something that is sort of a controversial issue in dinosaur paleontology, and I wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I've done a lot of research into the topic, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of a fun topic. Before we do get started, hello there in the chat to Caden, Triceratops, and Dave from Captive Desk. Hope y'all are having a great day. We'll go slow for a couple minutes while we wait for other people to filter in. I don't think anyone else is streaming right now, so that's part of why I hopped on when I did. Hello, Thomas Rutledge. And you know what? Might as well put some visuals on screen besides my face. So this is the dinosaur, well, the main dinosaur we'll be talking about today, Pachycephalosaurus. Oh, hey, and they're going to do the behavior that we're going to talk about too. Well, that'll be fun. We'll get to it soon. This video is about Pachycephalosaurs, just in general, and Pachycephalosaurus in particular here. And I figured, hey, what better way to get some good visuals than our old favorite Jurassic World Evolution 2? As always, this is kind of a modded game, and I've tried to recreate, let's say, a more mountainous area of the Hell Creek or Lance formations in Western North America. For those who aren't familiar, the Hell Creek and Lance formations are arguably some of the most important and most well-studied rock formations in the Western US. It's where we get a ton of late Cretaceous dinosaurs from, including Pachycephalosaurus, Triceratops, T-Rex, which is not in this park because it would kill everything, but it's the game. It's how the game goes. Well, again, I could turn that off, couldn't I? Well, we'll wait for more people. I guess I could do that. We can make this a little more realistic. Let's see. No, come. Let's make them all like each other. I forgot to do that earlier. Okay, I don't think they'll hunt each other, so we'll go ahead and add a T-Rex in here while we wait for more people to show up, which hopefully they do. Hope we can get a little bit of an audience in here today. Heck, I've even invited a couple paleo pals, so who knows, we might have a paleontologist or two joining us in the chat later. Let's see. There we go. And as you can see, of course, my game has mods because I like mods. So we'll even have a more realistic T-Rex in here. There we go. We'll add a couple of them in. You know, we can add in a little predatory dinosaur too, because why not? We'll do a little Troodontid, because those were around at this time. And this place. Once again, think of this as the Hell Creek Formation. Alrighty, let's see. How are we doing on viewers? Well, looks like we have 5 or 6. That's pretty good to start with, I think. Do, 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 do. Let's go ahead and get these eggs going, and we can start here in a moment. Do, 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 do. Alrighty. Well, we'll go ahead and release these little raptors. So, today's little stream, we're going to be talking about Pachycephalosaurs. And I guess for anyone who isn't familiar with them, I'll go ahead and give a real quick and dirty summary. So, Pachycephalosaurs are a group of dinosaurs, obviously, all known from the late Cretaceous of North America, Asia. There might be an Australian one, though I'm not sure about that, and maybe Europe as well. They're not as widespread as some other dinosaur groups are. They seem to have been at least mostly restricted to the northern hemisphere. And weirdly enough, and here we'll go ahead and get our T-Rexes out here because, that's fun. Weirdly enough, their closest relations appear to be the ceratopsians, such as Triceratops here. And specifically, this is Triceratops prorsus, which is the last surviving species of Triceratops found in the upper Hell Creek. Maybe we can talk a bit about Ceratops. Well, maybe a little about Ceratopsians in this stream. We'll see. Anyway, the lineage that leads to Ceratopsians splits into them and the Pachycephalosaurs. Now, based on the features of their skeleton, we would expect Pachycephalosaurs to have diverged in the mid to late Jurassic. But the first ones we find are already in the late Cretaceous. They're only 70 to 80 million years old, which is really weird. There's a long missing gap there that we call a ghost lineage, which is honestly a topic I probably should have brought up in the stream with Vendalia this weekend, talking about some ankylosaurs. Pachycephalosaurs are probably one of, if not the most extreme examples of a ghost lineage in dinosaurs. Also, I think these guys are panicking because there's a T-Rex nearby, probably. Somewhere. Maybe it's hiding. And even the earliest Pachycephalosaurs, when we find them, they already have thick skulls, they're bipeds, they're herbivores, and they're weird. They're weird in a few ways. First, and probably most obvious, that big old dome on the head, which there's been a lot of explanations for why they might have that, and we'll be going over a few of them in this stream. But the dome head is really weird. Now, not all Pachycephalosaurs had domes, but almost all of them, if not all of them, at least have some sort of expansion to the top of the head, be it a dome, or spikes, or ridges, or other possibly ornamental, or possibly combat-oriented structures. Kind of weird. As you can see when they walk around, they're all also bipedal, and they actually have pretty small arms with 5 fingers. Both of those things are weird for dinosaurs. Most dinosaurs lose some, if not most of their fingers, and most of them have longer arms, more muscular, more well-built, but Pachycephalosaurs don't. A lot of them also have a weird trait where their spine enters the bottom of their skull, kind of like how a human's does. That's also weird for dinosaurs. Usually it's the back of the skull, like most animals. And a really quick, um, so Caden Slinker in the chat is asking some fun questions. The raptors I released earlier are technically Stenonychosaurus, aka maybe Troodon, maybe not. They're troodontids. They're a variety of raptor, um, but we won't go into their evolutionary history here. Caden also suggests that the small frills of early marginocephalians, so ceratopsians and pachyes, could have been modified into domes. And that's true. As far as I'm aware, that seems to be what happened. So, this group that leads to ceratopsians and pachycephalosaurs is called marginocephalia. It means a border around the skull, and that's exactly what they did. Many of the earliest ones, up into the latest ones, have a ridge, at the very least, going along the back of the skull, like a shelf. Andrew thinks he saw the Rex somewhere, which I've not seen it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not here. Hunting, lurking. And Caden is also bringing up some stuff that we will be touching on soon. Anyway, so Pachycephalosaurs appear in the late Cretaceous, already weird as far as dinosaurs go. And then somehow they get weirder as we study them more. So, for a little bit of a history lesson, the first Pachycephalosaur, well, the first Pachycephalosaurus, the namesake of the group, this guy right here, is found in Wyoming, the state I'm currently doing fieldwork in. And I have looked for Pachycephalosaurs, though I haven't found any yet. Fingers crossed I do next field season. But it's found in Wyoming, actually a bit south of where I am right now. And it's got this big old chunk of bone on its head. Let me double check what all is the holotype. Because it might just be the skull. Okay, nope, never mind. We have skull, looks like spinal material, and maybe some limb material. So that's more than what I thought, if I'm reading this right. Do 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 do. I'm just double checking because I want to be sure it's right. Okay, as far as I can tell, it's apparently just the skull, which is a very common trend for Pachycephalosaurs. For some reason, the big dome made out of solid bone is the most common fossil we find of these animals. It's the easiest thing to survive, which has some implications, which we'll get into shortly. But it's found in Wyoming, and later on, remains attributed to Pachycephalosaurus are found in a couple neighboring states. There's some known from Montana, I believe some from South and maybe North Dakota as well. And other Pachycephalosaurs are also found in North America. Some of particular note are called Dracorex and Stygimoloch. Now, before we continue, I do want to quickly say what these animals' names mean, because they are kind of funny in a dark way. Pachycephalosaurus can be split into three separate words. Pachy, thick. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Pachy, meaning thick. Cephala, meaning head. And saurus, lizard. Thick-headed lizard. Kinda simple, and pretty fitting. That dome on the top of its skull could reach up to about 10 inches in thickness, which is kind of ridiculous. The next Pachycephalosaur we'll talk about, Stygimoloch. Oh, right, sorry. And the species name for Pachycephalosaurus is Wyomingensis. So it's the thick-headed lizard from Wyoming. Stygimoloch is split into two words, the genus is. Stygi, meaning from the river Styx, referencing that it's also from the Hell Creek Formation. And actually, super duper quick, I'll go ahead and show you what these guys look like. Now, the model in game here is the head's a bit too big, but it's otherwise pretty decent. But it's from the river Styx because it's from the Hell Creek Formation. Something is dying. I'll get to that in a second. Moloch, in the paper that describes it, simply translates as demon, but Moloch in particular is a demon slash Canaanite god that was known for child sacrifice and also had a pair of really big horns on the rear of its head. Now let's see. Oh, a Troodon's on low health. Why are you on low health? Oh, you have no food and water because. Well, wait. Are you isolated from? Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess I'll give them some water and food, because I kind of need that. Whoops. The perils of keeping animals, I guess. Also, I'll go ahead and destroy this really quick. But anyway, Stygimoloch, the demon of the river Styx. And then the species name is spinifer, meaning spiny or spiky. So it's the spiky demon of the river Styx. Pretty fun name, honestly. You gotta love when paleontologists can just have fun naming their animals. It's really... Sometimes people come up with some good names. Sometimes not. But then the last Pachycephalosaur we'll be focusing on today also has a fun name. Oh, and they're they're fighting a little bit there. So this is Dracorex hogwartsia. And its name is entirely a reference to the Harry Potter series. Dracorex translates to Dragon King, and then Hogwartsia from Hogwarts. It's the Dragon King of Hogwarts. Just goes to show you that scientists are all massive nerds. And no, we do not apologize for that. This guy doesn't apologize either. Is that still one of the Troodons? Yeah, it's one of the Trood. You know what? There's a pond within your territory. It's not my fault if you can't find the pond. Oh dear. Anyway, we have our 3 Pachycephalosaurs. And a weird thing I didn't mention about Dracorex here is that it is also known from the Hell Creek Formation in Western North America. So we have 3 very similar animals found in the same place that all lived at the same time. Well, that's kind of weird. Now, often when this happens in paleontology, paleontologists will suggest one of 2 things. One, maybe there's some sexual dimorphism going on. Maybe the males and females of a species are just really different. And maybe Pachycephalosaurus is the male and Stygimoloch is the female. But then you have Dracorex. You have a third, and most vertebrates don't have a third sex, and I don't know of any reptiles that do in particular. So we go to another commonly proposed, and you're going in the trees, so I'm going to leave you for a bit. We go to another explanation that a lot of paleontologists like to explore. What if they're all the same species? And they just look kind of different at different stages in their life? There's been a lot of research done on this with these pachycephalosaurs in particular. Also, really quick, I just gotta do something. Do 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 do. Sorry about this, folks. Just got to do a thing super duper quick. I'll be done in a few seconds. There we go. Anyway, so those are our two common explanations. Um, Caden here brings up there's a type of lizard that has 3 different types of males. I didn't know that. That's kind of interesting. And Katina here is right. Does not is not the same as cannot. So, interesting. Anywho, a lot of research has been done on this topic because, again, these animals all live in the Hell Creek. Oh, hey, there's a T-Rex. The Hell Creek is a very well-studied, very well-sampled formation, meaning that, well, it's had a lot of study and we found a lot of fossils from there. So we know a lot about it. So, some scientists decided to take a closer look at the osteology of these 3 pachycephalosaurs. And they found something very interesting. Now, before we dive into that, should probably explain what osteology is, because it's kind of important to a discussion about osteology. Osteology is the study of bones, specifically how bones form and how they change throughout an animal's life as they grow in response to trauma, in response to changing environments, things like that. And osteology can tell you a lot about an animal's life history. Oh, no problem there, Jake. No problem. Osteology can tell you a lot about an animal's life because everything you do affects your bones in some way. What you eat goes into your bones and changes it chemically. Injuries you sustain, like these guys are doing here, butting heads, which we'll get into later, that can leave injuries on the bones or lesions that you have to heal. And even that healing is going to leave a record there. If you break a bone, you'll see it in an x-ray. And usually on the surface, depending on how well it heals. And it can also tell you, or osteology can also tell you how those bones change as an animal grows. You can follow the changes from surface texture, internal texture of the bone, how the bone is woven together. If you think about a bone as made of a lot of little chambers and layers of different cells, all that can tell you a ton about an animal. So with these 3 Pachycephalosaurs, what do we find? And so specifically here, I'm going to be referencing a few papers and posters from the early 2000s and early 2010s. One of which a very good friend of mine has published on, and I will be showing her poster about it in a little bit. But in these Pachycephalosaurs, specifically with Dracorex and Stygimoloch, we see a lot of evidence of bone resorption. Now, bone resorption happens as the bones remodel themselves. This can be to develop muscle scars for better muscle attachment points. Your bones will resorb a bit, like your long bones will, as they grow. If you think about the shape of your long bones, they're thin in the middle and thick on the ends. As they grow from the center, but a little bit of bone has to be resorbed to maintain the shape. And a ton of it also happens in the skull, too, just because your skull changes quite a bit as you grow. And as the bone resorbs, it typically leaves pits and grooves because it doesn't all happen at once. And in Dracorex, we see bone resorption occurring in the spikes on its face and on the back of its head. A little bit less on the back of the head, but it's there. If we go to our next Pachycephalosaur in question, which I'll try to find one that's out in the open, Stygimoloch, it still has bone resorption going on. It has it occurring quite a bit on the nose horns, and now it has it going on in the spikes on the back of its head. The shape of its skull is also different. It's boxier, it's taller, and it even has a big old dome on the top of its head where we can see the bone thickening pretty rapidly. And then lastly, with Pachycephalosaurus, let me find one that's not asleep. We see the bone resorption slowing down with the spikes on the back and on the nose. It's slowing down. It's not completely stopped because resorption still occurs just to maintain bone. Sometimes bone gets weak and it needs to be done away with so new bone can grow. We do see some resorption going on in the dome as well, but that's something we'll go over a bit later. So going from Dracorex to Stygimoloch to Pachycephalosaurus, we see this pattern and how the bones are changing, where the smallest one has a lot of spikes, but those spikes are being actively shrunken. The next one still has those spikes, but they're being actively shrunken. And the last one has much smaller spikes that aren't shrinking as much. And something I didn't mention earlier is that as we go through these Pachycephalosaurs, we go up in size. Stygimoloch is smaller than Pachycephalosaurus, and Dracorex is smaller than Stygimoloch. And you can kind of see it here. You can see the rather dramatic size difference. We can also tell from the bones of Dracorex that it is a young animal. And for the record, as far as I know, we only have one specimen of Dracorex right now. That's kind of the thing about Pachycephalosaurs. They're very rare compared to other dinosaurs, which we will talk about. But they're very rare. So we have a Dracorex. I believe we have a couple Stygimoloch, but only one really good one. And we have a few Pachycephalosaurus. But most of these are just heads. Or in the case of Pachycephalosaurus, they're mostly the dome. Because again, it's a solid chunk of bone. And based on the information I've shared with you so far, along with some other information and some other research with living animals and other fossil animals, most paleontologists have agreed with the conclusion that Dracorex is just a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus, and Stygimoloch is an adolescent Pachycephalosaurus. And their skulls changed really dramatically as they grew. Now, something kind of important to ask here is, well, this is a really interesting situation. Do we see this situation with any other dinosaurs? Or any other animals for that matter? And as it turns out, yes, we do. In particular, really quick, why are you dying? Oh, you're starving and thirsty. Well, come back to the food. Anyway, another dinosaur we see this happen in is Triceratops, and in other ceratopsians, weirdly enough. And again, this group is the closest relation to Pachycephalosaurs. As Triceratops grows, its horns change direction dramatically. The bumps you can see on the side of the frill here, those bumps are sharp in subadult Triceratops, but then they shrink down and are resorbed into the frill in mature adults. And according to some research, it might go even further than that. It might be even more dramatic. But this isn't about ceratopsians. This is about pachycephalosaurs. So I'm not going to get into that right now. But there is a precedent. There is a precedence for this, is what I want to establish. And there's a precedence in not just these ancient. Why are you dying? Okay, I guess it needs more fiber in its diet. I'll add more fiber if that's such a big issue. Geez, these animals want to be fed. How heartless. Well, that one's about to die. Well, I'm a great zookeeper, as you can see. Back to the Packies. Caden is asking, what's the difference between a juvenile and adolescent? Juvenile. So, as an animal grows, you can sort its growth stages into different stages. You start off as a baby, then you become a juvenile, what we would call a kid. Then you have an adolescent, what we would call a teenager. And then you have a subadult, which us humans don't usually talk about. Our equivalent would be like 17, 18 years of age. And then full adult, humans reach full adulthood in their early 20s. So Dracorex would be a kid, Stygimoloch would be a teenager, and Pachycephalosaurus would be a full-grown adult. Alrighty. So what about those modern animals we see that with? Well, for this, I'm going to pull up a poster that was presented at a at an SVP meeting, a Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting, by a good friend of mine, Vanessa Weaver. I mentioned her a bit this weekend with my stream with Vandalia. She showed up. She is mainly a Pachycephalosaur researcher, though she's also done a lot of work with ceratopsians, some stuff with tyrannosaurs, a lot of research. And for the record, she gave me permission to show her poster. So in this poster, they looked at a living animal that has bony parts of its body that change dramatically as it ages. In this case, sturgeon. Baby sturgeon have a series of, let me zoom in here, have a series of really, really sharp, bony scales running along their back. Makes them harder to swallow for larger predators. But as they grow, they don't really need them as much anymore. So those bony scales, the sharp bony scales, are resorbed. And by looking at the structure of these scales under a microscope, Vanessa and her co-author here, Jack Horner, they saw what are called bone resorption pits, where the bone is actively being resorbed, actively being remodeled. You can see this in adolescent sturgeon. And then they looked at fossil sturgeons from the Hill Creek, and they found the same pattern. They were doing the same thing as they grew. So with this evidence on hand, they took a look at the osteology of a couple Pachycephalosaurs and Triceratops. And again, they found those same resorption pits, showing at a microscopic level that these bones were being actively remodeled towards the shapes we see in fully mature Pachycephalosaurs and ceratopsians, which I think is pretty dang cool. Now, this isn't the only bit of research that Vanessa has done. She's done quite a bit of other research, which she did give me permission to show, but I don't want to go into all of it right now. Well, I do want to go into a bit, because she also looked at how the nerves run through the bone in the dome, bone in the dome of Pachycephalosaurus. They're actually very well innervated, meaning there's a high nerve concentration. They would have been very sensitive structures to touch. And she also looked at injuries on the skull, or what appear to be injuries on the skull. Let me see if my computer will be nice and let me show images. Okay, it might not be nice, so we might... Let's see if it'll let me share the window. Yes, okay. So this is another poster of hers from a few years ago. And it might be a bit hard to read because this is a picture of the poster. But in adult Pachycephalosaurs, so what appear to be fully mature adults, or at least mostly mature adults, they still have these resorption pits in some cases. Now, this can be from a few things, and they bring up that it can be from a few things. Some of these appear to be remodeling after severe injuries. Not impact injuries. Rather, like say a rock fell off a cliff and broke off a chunk of the dome or something. Something that appears to have ejected part of the dome, which sounds really traumatic, and it is referenced in here somewhere. Here it is. So they're talking about these bone resorption pits in the skull. If you can see my mouse up here, and they reference that there's a distinct lack of crushing to the injury. It appears that it was broken out of the dome, or we're looking at some of the end products of further bone resorption, which definitely isn't impossible. We know this resorption occurs throughout the animal's life. We don't know when it ends. Because sadly, most of the fossils we find are not of fully mature individuals. And technically, your skeleton never stops changing. But they look at other injuries as well in other domes, and they find similar tissue, suggesting that the Pachycephalosaurus we have, which I'll pop back up on screen, is not this dinosaur's final form. And we might just not have found it yet. Which, I mean, personally, that really excites me. I love that there's stuff that we don't know. It's really cool. And this brings up something that has followed Pachycephalosaurs for their entire history. What were they doing with that dome? Now, keep in mind, this is still sort of an open question, and also, I do not currently, that might change in the future, I do not currently research Pachycephalosaurs. I can read papers about them, and I can consult experts, and I have. But I have not done this research myself. This part is this is secondhand right here. With that said, most of the injuries on the skulls of Pachycephalosaurs do not appear to be from headbutting, like we see in bighorn sheep, which, you know, bighorn sheep headbutting is really weird, and it's not healthy for them, but apparently something about it excites the ladies, so the males do it anyway. So that's not to say that just because a behavior like that would have injured a pachycephalosaur, they wouldn't do it. Animals do self-injurious behaviors all the time. Again, case in point, headbutting like bighorn sheep. But these are not bighorn sheep, and their skulls are not built like those of bighorn sheep. The horns of a bighorn sheep are specifically sculpted to reduce the impact from their headbutts. The energy is dissipated throughout the horns and into the rest of their body. Pachy's don't seem to have been built the same way. That is not to say that they couldn't have used their head as a weapon. In fact, they almost certainly did, at least when times got desperate. Because let's face it, if you're in a life or death scenario, you're going to do whatever it takes to survive. Case in point, okay, that was a very happy Struthiomimus there. Case in point, one of the most common ways humans fight is by punching each other. That's really hard on your hands. But humans do it anyway. So, what were these guys using those big old domes for? What were they using those spikes for? Current evidence seems to suggest that rather than backing up and slamming forward like bighorn sheep do, it's more likely it would have been a sort of pseudo boxing match, if that makes any sense. If they hit each other's heads, it would have been like a smack or like a quick punch, but they probably would have mostly gone for the rest of the body. Because, I mean, it's a softer target. Why wouldn't you? It also explains why even the fully grown, in air quotes, adults like Pachycephalosaurus still have those spikes and studs on the sides of their head. It seems they would have probably just smacked each other. Now, there's always more research being done on Pachycephalosaurs. So someday we may get more information, and mine and experts' opinions may have to change. This is just how the evidence appears right now. And there is another interesting thing about Pachycephalosaurs. As I mentioned earlier, they're very rare. And most of what we do have are the most durable parts of the body, the head. Now, durable parts being preserved isn't too uncommon. In fact, it's actually fairly common. We see this with ceratopsians. Usually their heads get preserved really well. We see it with ankylosaurs. Their heads and tail clubs or other pieces of their armor get preserved pretty well. But even then, Pachy's appear to be odd. And it has been proposed, and may actually be pretty well founded to be proposed, that they may have lived in more upland environments. Hence, why this stream is set in the Rocky Mountains, which were being actively formed when these guys were alive. They weren't as tall as the Rockies weren't as tall as they were now, but they were still forming. There would have been lots of tall hills nearby, lots of mountains. And considering how rare these guys are compared to everything else in the environments they're found in, it seems somewhat likely they would have lived, kind of ironically enough, like modern goats, which are almost all really upland animals. And funny enough, we have very few goat fossils too. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Um, let's see. I think that's probably about all I want to touch on, at least with this stream. I kind of wanted to talk about some cool research a friend of mine's been doing and, talk about a really common thing that's talked about a lot with dinosaurs, at least with these dinosaurs. Um, does anyone have any questions about anything brought up or dinosaurs in general? I'll give y'all a couple minutes to ask if you're curious. Um, do, do, do. Let's see. So we're Andrew's asking. So were Pachy's the mountain goats of the ceratopsians? Of the marginocephalians, they appear to have been. Again, that's the parent category that both Pachy's and ceratopsians belong to. And I do agree with you here. Love does make you do dumb stuff. Quite a bit of dumb stuff in some cases. Also, I really like this skin of this Pachy. I think it's really pretty. I guess while we're waiting for any questions, uh, maybe what all dinos do we have in here? Because there are a few that don't get a lot of press. Obviously, we have the Pachycephalosaurs and we have Triceratops. But there's weirder things in here too, some of which has only been identified fairly recently. We know that we have large Oviraptorosaurs from the Hell Creek. This is Anzu. It's a fairly new species, one which we actually have a pretty nice head for. We have a really nice skull for Anzu. And it was actually really big. For reference, Pachycephalosaurus is not a small animal. It's about 15 to 20 feet long. And Anzu's about the same size. That's kind of frightening. Especially since they were probably omnivores. Do 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 do. We also have some ornithomimids. This is Struthiomimus. In particular, I think Ornithomimus might be a better fit for the Hell Creek, but I don't recall off the top of my head. Regardless, delightfully birdy, of course. Nice and quick and fluffy, feathery. We have some other rare denizens of the Hell Creek, though these guys probably weren't upland animals. This is Ankylosaurus, the namesake of the group that this weekend that I gave a presentation about with Vendalia 1998, if anyone wants to go check that out. We went into their evolutionary history all the way from the Jurassic to the end of the Cretaceous. And yes, there were Jurassic ankylosaurs. Hello, Grayson. Hello, hello. Um, what I could do? If anyone wants to just hop in the stream and I don't know, just talk about dinosaurs or ask your questions, feel free to join. I don't have anything against people joining. I will put in earbuds though, in case anyone takes me up on that offer. Uh, But yeah, if anyone wants to come in and talk dinos or ask any questions, feel free to join us. While we're on our tour of the Hell Creek, we do have a troodontid. Now, Troodon itself is not known from the Hell Creek, I don't think, but troodontids are. And again, troodontids are a type of dromaeosaur, a type of raptor dinosaur. They're mostly much more lightly built in comparison. Oh, and this one's lonely. You all split up, and I don't know where the rest of your family is. Oh, they're all over here with a T-Rex. Of course, the most famous denizen of the Hell Creek Formation is obviously Tyrannosaurus Rex. That is an ugly skin. Oh, we have a visitor. Hello, Tyrannotherium.
Hello.
Oh, just a second. My didn't connect. Let me fix that really quick. Okay, it's connected. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Good. I've been watching your videos a lot. I like you did your video on Spinosaurus.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that one's unfortunately it's definitely already outdated to some degree because it's Spinosaurus.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe it will come back. Who knows?
Yeah, it's always possible.
Yeah. How did you get into paleontology?
Well, that's a fun question. I'd say it started when I was a little kid. I happened to have a very lazy babysitter at one point, and I had already kind of liked dinosaurs, so she decided the best way to entertain a 4-year-old would be to show him Jurassic Park, the entire movie. It gave me nightmares, but I was hooked, and I've loved dinosaurs ever since.
Interesting. For me, it was Land Before Time, Walking with Dinosaurs, and Jurassic Park, and all the other nostalgic dinosaur media back in the 90s and early 2000s for me.
After I was exposed to Jurassic Park, I started watching a lot more dinosaur stuff. So, yeah, I also saw Walking with Dinosaurs and Land Before Time. Weirdly enough, my favorite Walking with Dinosaurs episode was not part of the main series. It was the Big Al special. Especially the behind-the-scenes stuff really got me into the science aspect of paleontology.
Yeah. My babysitter recorded the Walking with Dinosaurs version on the Discovery Channel back then. Unfortunately, she passed away this year. Rest in peace. I mean, she was like 94, 93 years old. But yeah, but without her, I wouldn't be a fan of Walking with Dinosaurs to this very day. As a matter of fact, I even still have the VHSs that she recorded back in the day when you not allowed supposed to record, but it was they didn't know at the time.
Well, people did anyway.
Yeah, people did anyway.
It's good that you still have those.
Yeah. Except for that,
documentaries.
Except for that, she didn't record the whole Spirits of the Ice Forest, though. But it is what it is.
Well, not everything can be perfect. That was a fun episode, though. Even then, I think the Leonellosaurus should have had feathers.
Yeah.
Oh, really quick. Katina's asking. Oh, I can hear myself. If you could pick anywhere to explore for potential specimens, where would you dig? Even if it's a populated location. So that's a tough one. That's actually a really tough one. There's a lot of rock formations with a lot of interesting dinosaurs all over the world. I'd say right now I'm most interested in some early Cretaceous theropod evolution. So for that,
Oh,
I would
interesting.
probably want to look in either Chinese deposits or some of the better preserved early Cretaceous dinosaur deposits here. Maybe ones that haven't been super well explored. But that's a good question. That's a tough question.
Yeah. Oh, back to Leonosaur. Of course, they didn't know that it had feathers at the time. This was like what 1999. So
That's
things.
fair.
Yeah. The thing is that I always give documentary slack because obviously it's 1999 versus the present day. So yeah.
Right. And even our most up-to-date documentaries, like by the time it came out, there were parts of Prehistoric Planet that were already outdated.
Yeah, but there's still things that I disagree with, like sauropods having the air sac bubble things. I disagree with it. I think that they would, if they
Yeah.
had air sacs, they would push their throats like an ostrich would.
I
Like
mean,
it would
probably.
push.
I think that was just a fun thing Darren Naish just wanted to throw in there, which I can't really say I blame him.
But
And
a lot of
yeah,
experts like kind of freaked out.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
speculative features like that are weird. They're fun to have some, but it is kind of
fan fiction.
there's a line that a lot of paleontologists have, even if it is kind of fuzzy.
Yeah, like and it's like talk to experts, not don't make your own ideas. I mean, you can just talk to the experts first, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
And
the problem with paleo artwork is because it's like they want all dinosaurs to have feathers. I mean, no, no, no. Not all dinosaurs have feathers.
well, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't want to harp on people too much for just taking a bit of creative liberty. Like,
I,
I feel you should, if you have an imagination, you should use it, you know?
yeah, but don't do it over the top. That's the problem.
I wouldn't say that. Um, like, if you don't push your imagination to your limits, like, how many great forms of media would we have not have? Land Before Time. Land Before Time took massive creative liberties, even for the time. But it
Yeah,
still was an amazing movie that impacted a lot of people.
of
You can
course.
take creative liberties. I I would say if you're trying to be more of a documentary, like Prehistoric Planet, for example, or Walking with Dinosaurs, you should probably try to stick more to what we know. But even then,
Yeah.
I think it's fine to have a little fun with it. Like, the
Yes.
structures on the Dreadnoughtus are not impossible. Very unlikely, but they're not impossible, and they're based on real structures.
Yeah. And yeah, just don't put everything have feathers because that's just ridiculous.
Well,
You know,
it is it
like
though.
sauropods,
I'm
they
gonna
don't
have
have
to
feathers.
challenge you on that too. We have feathers from basically every branch of the theropod family tree. We have it for ceratopsians. We have it
That's only the
for
ancestor.
early ornithopods, and there might be some feathery structures on early sauropodomorphs. And then going further back than that,
That's
pterosaurs have feathers, and according to some recent studies, The main reason crocodilians don't have feathers, at least modern ones, is because they have a regulatory gene that turned off feather production. So it's likely that there were feathery crocodilians at some point. The closest relatives to dinosaurs had feathers that are almost identical to dinosaur feathers. And most groups of dinosaurs are also confirmed to have feathers too.
Yeah. For example, Psittacosaurus, because Psittacosaurus had the filaments. However, when evolution happened, they stopped having them. Because, like, for example, we know that Triceratops had scaly skin. It had
At
big
least
bumps in the
over
rears.
most of its body.
Yeah, and most of its body. But that still doesn't mean that Triceratops had feathers. Just because the ancestor had them, that doesn't mean the descendants have them. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it's like saying
they
that,
may have them in
about our
some aspect.
it's like saying that our ancestors had tails. We stopped having tails, as we evolved.
Sorry, I'm just gonna have a little fun, and I'm gonna put a fun little Psittacosaurus in here. That's not a Psittacosaurus, that's an Aristeon.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but especially in paleoart that's not trying to be 100% accurate, I still think it's fine to just have a bit of fun.
I mean, if it's fun, yeah, but if it's all business, like if you want real, that's gonna be a problem. But that's just me, though. I'm all business. I'm
That's
all
fair. So
like I don't back
are you
down.
gonna tell me you don't think these guys are fun?
Psittacosaurus? I
Look
mean,
at them.
they are pretty cute. I just don't know if they have that dome on their head.
It's not a dome. It's a taco.
Oh, it's a mod. It's a mod. Yeah, but they are pretty cool, I have to say. I would love to have a Psittacosaurus as a pet. What kind of dinosaur would you have as a pet?
That's a really tough choice. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards Stegosaurus. The little stegosaur ankylosaur from South America.
Oh, that's the one that's like the ancestor of it, right? The ancestor.
No, it's one of the latest surviving ankylosaurs.
Oh, never
It's
mind.
from the latest Cretaceous.
Oh, my bad.
It just had a battle axe for a tail, and it was the size of a large dog.
Oh shit! Damn, that's tiny.
Yeah.
For an ankylosaur. There's a museum that's opening where I'm volunteering. It's at the fossil park. I live in New Jersey, and basically the museum's going to be literally like 1 mile away where I live, and it takes place 66 million years ago in the Cretaceous period.
It's pretty neat.
And back then, in the Cretaceous period of New Jersey, it was very coastal, underwater. There's even a tyrannosaur called Dryptosaurus that lived there, which I love. Dryptosaurus. It's one of my favorite
it's pretty cool.
theropods. And it was actually the first theropod in America to be discovered.
Maybe the first named, at least that wasn't just called Megalosaurus. Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, in America, my mistake, in America. So that's pretty damn cool.
Well, right. I'm saying it's the first one in America that wasn't just lumped into Megalosaurus because everything was back in the 18 and 1900s.
Yeah, I remember. And way back in the day, people thought that Dryptosaurus was related to an Allosaurus, but no, that's not really the case.
Now,
it's a Tyrannosaurus.
Really quick, here I think is an example of speculative evolution. No, not even that. This is a design I hate.
Yeah, now that's completely awesome bro fan fiction.
Not awesome, bro. It's just ugly. It's bad. It's terrible. I hate it.
Well, Awesome Bro is considered ugly.
Not necessarily.
You don't mind Awesome Bro stuff either?
I think it has its place.
I guess. So you're pretty much like the guy that likes to have fun.
Yeah, I like to have fun and I like to see what people come up with.
Yeah. Me, I'm just business.
Not that.
Like, for example, like I don't know if you watch Dragon Ball, but I'm like Gogeta. He's all business.
I'm actually more of a fan of Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Oh, Team 4-Star.
Yeah.
Oh. I guess you never
And,
seen the franchise yet. The entire franchise. Oh, wow, that's a
not the entire
beautiful
thing.
Deinonychus mod. That is
Yep.
beautiful. That's so dope. Oh, have you played Path of Titans?
I have. But really quick, so just so people have a visual, here's my line for paleo art. When you take this thing, my namesake, and turn it into
This pile. Yeah, this pile of garbage.
Looks like a sick salamander. But for the most part, I don't have a problem with people having fun, though. That's it. It's just me, though.
Yeah. Oh, what are your thoughts on the new saber-toothed cat paper that's been found recently? A cub.
I'm really excited about it. It looks amazingly well preserved. I'm kind of hoping we can get some proteins from it. Maybe some proteomics.
Yeah, apparently the cub was like 3 weeks old when it died.
Sounds about right, unfortunately. Most animals die really young.
Yeah, and now there's speculation that Homo theory may have had a beard. That's pretty interesting. And I like to think to myself, maybe its beard was for combat.
Maybe it was for what?
For protection.
Oh,
from fights, just like.
Oh, Jurassic World
because
crashed. Whoops.
Oh, that sucks.
It happens. I was thinking of bringing it to a close anyway.
Yeah. Do you collect figures?
Not well. I did when I was a teenager, but I haven't really now. Or I don't really these days.
I have a shit ton of figures.
PNSO has a lot of pretty good ones.
Yeah, PNSO is my #1 favorite company. I don't know why I love it so much. What else do I like?
I will say they, at least, I kind of like them because most of their designs aren't like the Papo. Is it Papo?
Yeah, Papo.
Moros.
Yeah, they have a Moros figure. Well, actually, no. Schleich.
Or no, it's a Schleich.
Yeah, Schleich.
Schleich has the incredible one.
Yeah, they actually have a they just released a Carcharodontosaurus figure. It looks okay, but it's better than the other figures. Yeah, that one's complete garbage.
It's horrifying.
It looks like a Jurassic Park, one of those like weak Jurassic Park toys. Like it's one of those like
one of the bad ones.
Yeah, the Hasbro Jurassic World toys. I don't know why.
And then look at this. This is apparently a Papogorgosaurus. This is almost perfect. There's a real disparity. Also, hello, Ember. We're just winding down from a presentation about Pachycephalosaurs. If you want to hop on and talk about any dinosaurs or ask any questions, feel free. 'Tis an open room at the
Oh,
moment.
speaking of which, of Pachycephalosaurs, do you think that their heads are fragile for combat?
I would not say fragile, but don't think I don't think headbutting is what they were doing. I lean more towards, I don't know if there's a better term for it. I call it head boxing.
Um,
So, just to illustrate what I mean, headbutting is what bighorn sheep do, where they rear back and just slam like this. Head boxing is more where they're using their heads as a bludgeon against each other's bodies.
oh, like neck wrestling.
Yeah, but with more focus on smacking each other with their head.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, they have a purpose. They have a defense mechanism. You know,
Oh, I agree.
and same with imply with ceratopsians. And Jack Horner even said that their horns are fragile because the horns are hollow. I'm like, even if the horns are hollow, they're still gonna do a lot of damage.
I With ceratopsians, I need to see more of the data for myself, but at least with Pachycephalosaurs, I like the boxing model more than the butting model.
I think that they could probably do both. Just like in Prehistoric Planet, they were both neck wrestling, they were both box heading or whatever you were saying, and headbutting. They were like all over the place. The Pachycephalosaurus fight. That's probably my favorite.
Yes, but it I like the Prehistoric Planet version, and I wish I could show it here, but I think it would get copyright claimed.
Yeah, and it's
I
BB.
like it. Um, it doesn't feel ritualized. Like, it doesn't feel like this is a thing they do all the time when they butt. It's like they're just going at each other, and one of the blows happens to be like a headbutt, and both of them have a very pained reaction to it.
Because they have very thick heads for a reason.
They do, but the structure of the head would transfer the force directly to the brain from an impact like that.
Well, they did mention about that in the making of when they were talking about the Pachycephalosaurus thing. I wish I can show you it, but it would be copyright. But scientists were talking about they could do both headbutt, display, and everything else.
And I guess it is kind of important to say it's not a dichotomy. Like there's a whole spectrum of things you can do with your head.
Yeah, of
Or
course.
like with humans, like humans can punch, humans can karate chop, humans can pinch.
And
You
headbutt.
can use the same tool for multiple things.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they never headbutted, just that it probably wasn't their go-to,
Hmm.
just based on the evidence I have seen. But I'm always willing to be proven wrong. Always.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the lip and lipless debate?
Lips. Absolutely, I think non-avian dinosaurs almost all had tooth-covering lips.
For me, I was more into the lipless guy. Well, yeah, I was more
You're cutting out. I'm not sure if it's
into
on my end
lipless
or on your end. You cut out for a few seconds there.
because I was that I have a book called Why Theropods Do Not Have Lips by Tracy Ford. I don't know if you ever heard of Tracy Ford before.
Have not.
Tracy Ford goes into a lot of detail that
Yeah, sorry, you keep cutting out. You keep roboting really
Goes
bad, at
into a
least
lot
for
of
me.
detail on like they don't have hello?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not doing anything. Every time you start talking, your voice just
I guess
cuts
technical
out.
difficulties.
Yeah, it's not one. Oh, and he's gone. Well, y'all saw my hands. I didn't kick him. He just dropped. I guess we'll see if he reconnects. While I'm doing the outro, I do want to bring it to a close because I work tonight and I would like to take a nap before I work tonight. With that said, I hope y'all enjoyed this little kind of informal presentation. I hope you learned something, even if you don't agree with all of my opinions on the topic. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. If you did like what you saw or heard, please do the YouTube things, like and subscribe. If you have any friends who might enjoy learning about Pachycephalosaurs, feel free to send it their way. Feel free to send this their way. And if you want to help support me financially too, you can send a super chat or a super thanks at the end. Or I have a Venmo, which I should have put in the description. I'll put in the description if you want to like send a tip or something my way. Tyranotherium is back. Hello. Let's see if we can hear you this time.
Hello. Sorry about that. I'm using my laptop now. I was using my phone a while ago. So anyway, so the book goes into a lot of detail on why theropods don't have lips, because Ford mentioned that 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 lizards have oral glands and theropods don't. And he also brings up that, dinosaurs are not lizards, which is correct. But
I agree.
honestly, like I think that until we find a mummy, we'll know the truth if theropods had lips or not. I mean, as you can see in my picture, instead of arguing about the debate, why can't we just be friends? I don't know if you can see
Oh, is
the
that both? Yeah, I see that. That's
yeah,
cute.
both PNSO and Beasts of the Mesozoic. Yeah.
I mean,
Because it's like, honestly,
I
like this has to stop.
I think the evidence leans more towards them having lips than non-lips. But like I said, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I just
Yeah.
don't think we don't have like the killer evidence to say either way yet, but I think the majority is on the side of lipped condition. At least for
Yeah.
most theropods. Spinosaurs are weird. But
The way I
Spinosaurs are
see
just
it,
general.
the way I see it is that maybe the ones with like longer teeth, such as tyrannosaurs, maybe they didn't have lips, but like dromaeosaurs, allosaurs, coelophysoids, to name a few, maybe they had lips because their teeth were smaller. But with Rexes, they had like saber teeth, you could say.
I don't
But
know.
that's just me, though.
Like I said, I just need more data to be certain, but I do want to bring this to a close. Not to cut you off, but I need to get ready for work tonight.
Okay. Oh, my bad.
No, you're fine. With that said, I'm just going to maximize me on the screen. Once again, thank you to everyone who joined, everyone who followed along. I hope you all have a fantastic day and you learn something amazing tomorrow. Gracias.